To me, in the NBA, it's always been those key players that have way more pressure than others. Like, no offense, a player like Mike Conley, even though he's never really made significant playoff noise, he's been battling injuries for the last 4 seasons, you'll never look at him and say it's a make or break season for Mike Conley. You just appreciate what he brings and you accept it. Meanwhile, a player like Russell Westbrook, even though he's there every night, even though he gives it his all every single game, we'll break down his every move. If he's not enough of a point guard, if he doesn't pass the ball enough, if his decision making isn't precise enough, we'll let him hear about it. And that's just how the NBA has always been. So with that being said, in this video, I wanted to take the time to look at some of the most criticized players this league has ever seen. But before we jump into the video, if you're new, make sure you hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and of course, please like the video. Y'all don't understand how much that helps me, and I appreciate that. So that's all I can really. Nah, your stuff not frozen. What, you in a bad mood today? You think I'd be asking for all that stuff just for my health? Man, go like the video, man. I ain't gonna ask you again.
If you didn't watch the game, Oklahoma City was in control for all of it. And then Russell Westbrook just forgot that he had teammates. But then again, he told us last week his best friend was the ball. So what he did in the fourth is who he is.
As you can see, Russell Westbrook has somehow turned into one of the most scrutinized players in NBA history. To be honest, I would say it all started when Kevin Durant left, but that's not even true. He was getting slammed even when Kevin was there, back when he was quote-unquote trying to be the man. Look at this article back in 2012 asking if Russell Westbrook is the worst point guard in NBA Finals history. Like, what the hell? Now, to give this article a little bit of context, this was written shortly after Magic Johnson went out on a limb and said Russell Westbrook just played the worst point guard game in NBA Finals history. He criticized him for being too reckless, not passing enough, not making good enough decisions, and of course that made headlines. Now, he said this after a Game 2 loss versus the Heat back in 2012, so Russell Westbrook was only 23 at the time, but that was kind of the beginning of it. After that, we saw stuff like this.
Were you aware of Mark Cuban's comments before the game when he said Kevin was the only superstar on this team, and how do you react to that?
Hold up. He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot. All right, that's what we got to say about that.
And now it's gotten to the point where he's the main headline for a lot of sports shows. They'll crucify him for his stats, inflated stats, not passing the ball, and just nitpicking every part of his game. Don't get me wrong, a lot of his critiques are definitely fair, but sometimes it feels like we don't even appreciate the fire, the passion, the commitment that he consistently brings to the game. So I really hope he wins big in Houston, man. He deserves it. Now next, Allen Iverson. Now, I literally have a video about him later this week, so I don't want to talk too long on him, but Allen Iverson was dead as the player that changed the culture of the 2000s. All the new outfits you see nowadays and how players wear whatever they want to express themselves. Allen Iverson was one of the pioneers of all of that. When he was rocking baggy clothes, the chains, the tattoos, the cornrows, all the style, he was viewed as unprofessional and he got criticized for it. Also, a lot of the media thought his style and his nonchalant attitude towards everything translated into his play. He constantly got called selfish, he was scrutinized for his stubbornness, and that was really the story of his career. Now, a lot of it to me was 100% fair because I think his non-willingness to change stunted the end of his career. Like, even towards the back end of his prime, he wouldn't accept certain lesser roles because he thought he was too good for it. So I understand that part of his criticism, but I also get the other side, and a lot of his critiques early in his career was a bit extreme, so I get that part as well. Now, next, and speaking of stubbornness ruining a career, Carmelo Anthony. I said this in one of my last videos. I always sympathize for Carmelo for one reason. He was drafted in one of the most successful drafts of all time. And for that exact reason, his career is inevitably compared to the greatest player of this generation. Unfortunately for Melo, he's been getting slammed for the majority of his career, and I'm talking about by everyone. Ex-coaches, ex-teammates, and definitely us, and of course the media. I mean, to me, Carmelo never really seemed to fully commit to his physical condition. Like, he never seemed like he was in his best physical shape, and consequently, I feel like it showed a little bit defensively. I mean, Carmelo, he competed in the era with some of the greatest two-way players ever, and I'm talking Kobe Bryant, Chris Paul, D. Wade, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. All these players got after it on both sides, so when he didn't, it kind of put it on a magnifying glass. Then when he went to OKC and got a second chance, he immediately made himself a little bit bigger than the team when he basically said he wouldn't come off the bench and accept the lesser role and kind of made a joke out of it. So after that, his career is kind of taking a down spiral and he's kind of an afterthought right now. His career is always going to be compared with LeBron, so I sympathize for him for that. But other than that, a lot of his critiques are 100% fair, so that's that. Now next, the exact opposite of Carmelo, Kobe Bryant. Kobe was never questioned about his passion. He was never out of shape. He never lacked on defense. Those weren't his problems. Many of his critiques basically was about the intangibles of the game. Things like leadership, learning how to make others better. Things like that are basically what people highlighted when they criticized Kobe's career. Pretty much after that Shaq divorce, many people claimed Kobe as this selfish player that made no one better. And this kind of started a trend of many people hating Kobe. Look at all these articles I found back then with all these people precisely explaining why they hate this man. I remember I made a video called The Biggest Difference Between Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, and the premise of that video, Michael Jordan was loved and Kobe Bryant was hated. That's the biggest difference between the two. Even to this day, you have people out there that will argue that Kobe wasn't even a top 10 player. Like, there's people out there that will argue your ass off that Kobe's not top 10. So his career wasn't all peaches and cream like it is right now, where everybody loved and appreciated what he brung. While he played, he had constant backlash and constant criticism. And to me, that's what drove Kobe Bryant to become the Mamba. He knew people desperately wanted him to fail so they can say he's not Michael Jordan. He just basically rode his way to 3 championships with Shaq and all this stuff. So he worked his ass off so he can prove everybody wrong. So yeah, don't get 2019 Kobe mixed with 2009 Kobe. 10 years ago, a lot of people hated him and wanted him to lose. And to me, like I said, that's what drove him and that's what made him become so great. Now, next on this list is kind of a weird one to me, Charles Barkley. I say his is kind of weird because I think he's one of the only players to get most of his criticism after he retired. Usually players, they take all their heat during their career, and after they retire, they get all this fake love and everybody loves them and all this stuff. That's typically how it happens, but for Charles Barkley, it hasn't quite been like that. And to me, if you ask me why it's like that, I think most of it is because of his outspoken nature and how hard he is on current players right now. Like, of course, if you go hardcore on all these current players and talk about their every move, they're going to dig up your resume and your legacy and see what did you really even do. And to make matters even worse, he sits up there with 2 NBA champions, and he sits up there with the leader of the Charles Barkley Slander Club, Shaquille O'Neal, letting everybody know, man, this dude doesn't know what it takes to win a championship. He never won, and he's just Charles Barkley. He always makes sure he puts him in his place. A big theme of that TNT show, and kind of what makes it so great, is the Charles Barkley versus Shaq fight. Like, they always go back and forth, and Shaq always lets him know that he never won a championship. I've never seen a player in any sport get criticized more for not winning than Charles Barkley. Like, I've never seen it like that. So that's why I kind of had to throw him on this list. And it's kind of weird because it happened when he retired. It typically doesn't happen like that. Great player, but like I said, that ring, that's always going to be his Achilles heel. And last on this list, and you should already know this one, LeBron James. Look, I'm not going to spend all day on this because we already know. LeBron is the most criticized player in any sport that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, to me, the big difference between Michael Jordan and LeBron, I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan didn't have the everyday pressure of surpassing all his predecessors' legacies. Like, was it Magic Johnson versus Michael Jordan? Who's going to retire with the most rings? Who's the GOAT? Like, this whole GOAT conversation blew up as soon as LeBron got into the league. Before he got into the league, this GOAT conversation wasn't as big of a deal. Like, to me, it seems like LeBron never got the chance to really create his own legacy because we always try to create what we wanted it to be. We never let him create it himself. We always, as soon as he lost lost in the NBA Finals. That's one tag on his legacy. Michael never lost. Michael didn't have to worry about never losing the NBA Finals. Like, losing the NBA Finals was regular back then because they just played. Now, as soon as you lose the NBA Finals, you are automatically eliminated from the GOAT conversation because Michael Jordan laid this perfect blueprint that nobody's going to be able to follow. To me, it's a little bit ridiculous. So, LeBron, he's on this list for obvious reasons. I've never seen a player get criticized for a AAU event in which he funded himself. I've never seen it. So, LeBron, his career is always put on the magnifying glass, and to me, he's done a good job handling it. If you guys like this video, make sure you guys leave a like. Also, if you're new, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, follow my IG and my Twitter, and until next time, guys, stay tuned.